There are some people who just seem to operate on a totally different frequency. They're the ones who catch that tiny shift in a smile, or hear the unspoken tension in a room. They can spot a lie before it's even fully formed. We tend to call this a gift, right? This sharp intuition. But what if that gift is also a really heavy psychological burden? Well, that's the paradox we're going to dig into today.
So, let me just ask you, straight up, are you one of them? Are you the person who's always noticing the little details, the hidden emotions, the patterns that seem to just fly right over everyone else's head? It's a pretty unique experience, and if you know what I'm talking about, you know.
Because this ability, it's a huge paradox. On one hand, it's basically a superpower. You can read emotions, spot lies almost instantly, and see straight through the social masks people wear. But here's the catch. That power comes at a serious cost. It can push you into isolation, fill you with constant doubt, and lead to just complete emotional exhaustion. It is a very fine and honestly often a dangerous line to walk.
Now, to really get this, we have to look past the idea of it being some kind of magic, because it's really not. It's actually rooted in the science of how our brains are wired to process all the hidden truths of human interaction.
A huge part of this is a neuroscience concept called thin slicing. So think of it like your brain is a supercomputer running high-speed, subconscious data analysis. It's taking in these tiny little bits of information and making incredibly fast, intuitive judgments, a lot of times before you're even consciously aware it's happening.
I love this metaphor because it puts it perfectly. Most people, they're just watching the play on stage, They're accepting what the actors say at face value. But a highly perceptive brain, it's different. It's automatically looking behind that velvet curtain, spotting the broken props, the nervous sweat, all the little technical errors in the performance of just being human.
And one of the biggest tells it's looking for? Something called micro-expressions. These are tiny, totally involuntary facial movements that give away a person's real emotion, even when they're trying their hardest to hide it. They're the little glitches in the social matrix. And they are unbelievably fast. We're talking as little as 1/25th of a second. So when a coworker says, "Oh, I'm so happy you got that promotion," your brain might hear the words, but it sees that flicker of jealousy, that smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes. And in that split second, your brain is screaming, "Data error." The words and the body language, they just don't match up.
So this constant data analysis, while it's super powerful, it often leads perceptive people into three really exhausting psychological traps. This is where the science of seeing reveals its high cost, and where that gift starts to feel a whole lot more like a curse.
Okay, trap number one is becoming the accidental villain. Think about it. Our society is built, in a lot of ways, on polite little lies and social masks. We kind of need them to keep things running smoothly. So the person who sees right through them isn't always celebrated. A lot of the time, they're seen as a threat.
This whole experience is captured perfectly in the ancient myth of Cassandra. She was given the gift to see the future, but nobody ever believed her warnings. They just thought she was being negative or even crazy. When you're the one pointing out the uncomfortable truth that everyone else is ignoring, you risk becoming that modern-day Cassandra, the one who ruins the comfortable illusion for everybody.
The second trap is what we can call the detective trap. And this one is fascinating. This is when your ability to analyze stops being a helpful tool and turns into this toxic obsession. You realize you can't always trust what people say, so you start trusting only your own analysis of their every single move.
And you get stuck in this really nasty loop. A late text isn't just a late text anymore. No, it's a sign of fading interest. A compliment feels like a setup for some future request. Your brain, thanks to confirmation bias, starts filtering for proof that your suspicions are right. And in that whole process, you completely lose the ability to just be in the present moment. You kind of lose your innocence.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe the loneliest trap of all, becoming an emotional dumping ground. Because you understand people so well, you know exactly what they need. But here's the really tough part. Nobody understands you. You see all their truths, but you have to keep them to yourself.
This analogy just captures the weight of it all so perfectly. You might see the huge cracks in a friend's marriage at their wedding, or you notice a manipulative boss taking advantage of a kind coworker. You can sense the disaster that's coming, but you can't say a word. You're just forced to smile, raise your glass, and hold the weight of that truth all by yourself.
Okay, so that was all pretty heavy. But here's the good news. If you can't turn this ability off, what do? The goal isn't to see less, it's to change how you respond to what you see. So let's talk about 3 survival principles to help you take back control of your mind.
These principles are all about building what we can call cognitive boundaries. It's about learning to practice strategic ignorance, accepting that social masks actually have a purpose, and learning to forgive the blind spots, both in other people and, just as importantly, in yourself.
So what in the world is strategic ignorance? Well, it's really the art of separating truth from responsibility. Let's say you see a coworker sucking up to the boss. Okay, that's the truth you see. But is it your job to expose them? Probably not. Your perception is a tool for your own protection and decision-making. It's not a weapon to go around fixing the world. You observe, you note it, but you don't always have to engage.
All right, next up, you've got to reframe how you see all that fakeness. Instead of judging social masks, try to understand them with some empathy. A lot of the time, a mask isn't there to deceive. It's there to hide a wound or an insecurity. It's a form of psychological self-preservation, and understanding that can replace your disgust with a quiet kind of acceptance. And finally, to escape that detective trap, you have to forgive the blind spots of the present. Life is risky, relationships are imperfect. Your intuition might be screaming at you that there's a 20% chance of getting hurt down the line, but you have to find the courage to live in the 80% of joy that's happening right now. Don't let your analysis of the thorn stop you from actually enjoying the flower.
You know, when you start to practice these principles, something really incredible starts to happen. Your perception, it evolves. It stops being this heavy burden and it transforms into a source of genuine wisdom. You start to shift from being an analyst to being a guide.
And this right here, this is the core mindset shift. You stop being like a cold X-ray machine that's just designed to find flaws, judge weakness, and create fear. Instead, you become a quiet lighthouse. You still see all the dangers, and you understand the currents. But your purpose shifts to offering calm, steady guidance.
And the impact of that shift is just profound. As an X-ray, you expose people, you create discomfort, and you end up feeling totally isolated. But as a lighthouse, you learn to guide your own ship safely. You navigate complex social waters with grace, and you replace that awful feeling of isolation with a deep, grounding sense of wisdom.
So in the end, it all boils down to this one choice. Your perception is a brutal, but also a beautiful gift. You can see all the hidden rocks beneath the surface that everyone else misses. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you going to spend your energy pointing out every single flaw, or will you use your sight to help guide the way to safer shores? The choice is yours.